You're listening to LiveWild Radio, the part-time adventure podcast.
Join us as we explore how outdoor adventures build mind, body, and spirit. Welcome back to LiveWild Radio. I'm Catharine, alongside here with Winston. Tonight's episode is all about winter training for outdoor summer adventures, and we get into the topics of what you can do for a training program for mountain bikers, rock climbers, and backpackers. And before we get into today's episode, it is so fitting to talk a little bit about our partner. Great Lakes Gear is where we get all of our fitness equipment from pull-up bars to kettlebells, maces. You can get your squat racks, your treadmills, anything that you want. But what we really like about them are their prices are fair, the products are really good quality, and we can give you a promo code of 5% off if you type in LiveWild, all in caps, links in the bio. And meanwhile, it saves you money, doesn't cost you anything more, and they kick something back over to us, which helps us out as well. Continue doing these podcasts. So for our American listeners, go to www.greatlakesgear.com. And for our Canadian listeners, it's www.greatlakesgear.com.
Booyah!
And now for today's episode. I had to catch my breath. Sometimes when you talk, you're like, and you need to breathe.
Yeah.
Tonight's episode is really cool. Hey, here's the thing. We're now into February. We've made our New Year's resolution like everybody else has. And I'm pretty stoked because last year, we really stuck our nose to the grind and did our own home workouts. And I could not believe it was truly the WTF effect after my winter training program into mountain biking. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I lost some weight, but I got super strong. And we're going to share that with you tonight and give you some of our tips.
Yeah. So one of the things people run into is having a hard time maybe mentally training this time of year. It's cold, it's blah. Like, unless you've got sort of some winter sports that you're into, and we'll talk about a few that kind of cross over well with, your summer activities. But one of the things to always keep in mind is that the physical changes we want to elicit happen relatively slowly. So if you want to be in really good shape for the summer, you really got to be starting now if you haven't been training all the way through, because fitness is not a get 6-pack abs in 30 days bullshit that you see on the internet. It is an ongoing process, right? I say this regularly, like it's called working out because you're going to work. Right? You got to put the work in. It takes time. When we're talking about like actual cellular changes taking place to the muscle fibers, to your red blood cells, the mitochondria in your cells, it's not like you do a workout and all of a sudden all this shit happens tomorrow. It's this incremental process. If you think of it like the idea of, laying bricks in a wall, right? One brick doesn't mean shit. But, and if we think of each workout as a brick, any one workout isn't going to make this massive difference. But if you take 100 workouts, now you start to see a difference, right? Just as if you put 100 bricks in the wall, all of a sudden it starts looking like something, right? And that's, the biggest thing for people is just realizing that if you want to kick ass in the summertime, or if you want a beach body,
or look good naked,
it's not something that, in May or June before you head to the beach, you can pull off in 30 days, right? Unless you're already there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now you're just putting the icing on top. Like if you're already in shape, you can peak. But if you're not in shape, you're not getting in shape in 30 days.
And here's the bright side. Newbie gains.
Yeah. If you are new to it.
Yeah, it's truly a thing. And which is why also we advocate that when you are working out, even if you are already in shape, to constantly mix it up after a certain period of time. Doing the things you're not good at too, because newbie gains.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things you'll run into, totally aside from the physical benefits that'll come, a number of months down the road, so you'll be good at hiking or mountain biking or climbing or whatever it is the mental benefits we get from working out,
especially in the winter.
Yeah,
Dark and
but it's year round, right? It just happens to be you're already feeling shittier in the wintertime because you're not getting sunlight. It's not as easy just to go out for a walk. You got to get bundled up, and it even dressed properly, it might be unpleasant sometimes when it's cold enough, especially if
it's always hard getting out the door or even coming, just at the thought of it. But I'm truthfully like this. But the other day when we went out to post lunch, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to come out here at lunchtime. Because I used to only do that in the summertime, go mountain biking at lunch there.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is so good for me. And it was like minus 25.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that. So,
luckily it wasn't windy at all.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
It was a beautiful minus 25 sunny day.
Yeah.
Beautiful sunny day.
Yeah, basically we were dog sitting and had a big ass Bernese mountain dog.
Beautiful dog.
That when it's like, hey, let's take this dog for a snowshoe hike. She just had a great time.
She can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our thing was, come on, we got to walk. Like, stop rolling in the snow.
It was fun.
And yeah, it's one of those things where any of the trails that you mountain bike on in the winter can be used for snowshoeing, fat biking. The only other people we saw out were on fat bikes.
Yeah. And I think you turned around and you looked at me like, we're getting fat bikes next year.
Yeah.
You're like, we're missing out. Were you feeling that way? You're like,
yeah, because the snow, everything was so packed down. It was like,
it was perfect.
You didn't really need a lot of bite for your snow. Like, you didn't really need snowshoes.
Yeah.
But you got to admit, like, it'd be fun ripping through there
for sure
on a fat bike. So a couple of concepts for people to wrap their head around, and this even goes for people that have been exercising for a long time, right? One of the things we tend to be really prone to is just getting in a routine, right? Where we're doing the same shit all the time. And one of the things you'll find with programs is, and it's sort of a running joke, but any program will work for 6 weeks. And then there's sort of diminishing returns, right? So rather than just doing the same thing over time, if you're, say, strength training, and I don't know anybody who's athletic would do it this way, but let's say you're doing like a bodybuilding type body part split, right? Whether it's an upper lower split or I don't know how anybody would break it up, but different ways you can do it. But if you then switch over to 3 days a week of push, pull, hinge, squat, and carry, right? Which is, each workout's only going to be 5 exercises. You're then going to be hitting yourself differently than, doing 3 sets of 8, right? Like if you think about today, one of the things we did was every minute on the minute for 10 minutes, we did 11 kettlebell swings, right? So you did 110 kettlebell swings in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? We did bear crawls with the kettlebells. And we did pull-ups. Right?
How is that?
But that workout worked your whole body.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that if people just focus on the concept of those hitting those 5 movement patterns.
Yep.
So push, pull, squat, hip hinge, and loaded carry.
Yeah.
They just focus on that rather than the upper and lower body that you often hear in the gym.
Yep.
You're golden, because sometimes there's too many components, and sometimes people focus on the components of your upper or lower body that you don't need to. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, because
it's not as efficient.
Yeah, well, it's not as efficient, but also you run into the thing where, if you've been doing it a certain way, by switching it up, you're immediately going to make more progress.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's
Always.
a new stimulus.
Yeah.
Right? If you've been doing deadlifts, and obviously you've got to learn how to do them properly, but if you've been doing deadlifts, then doing explosive kettlebell swings as your hinge is going to hit the muscles in a different way. Right? Then, and it'll have like a work capacity or a conditioning benefit as well. If you've been doing bench press, then, switching over to, like pull-ups and overhead press, right? You're not hitting the pecs quite as much with an overhead press as you would with a bench press. But most of the same muscles are used, right? But by streamlining it, you run into the thing of really focusing, on getting stronger in those movements. And, I would run into the thing where, give or take, roughly every 6 weeks, I would be switching it up, right? Whether it's your rep ranges, whether it's the specific movements you're doing, because we've got this thing from bodybuilding in our head that it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm doing chest, right? And so you want to hit your chest from a bunch of different angles, right? But if you're thinking of yourself as an athlete, you want to get stronger at pushing, you want to get stronger at pulling. The muscles will come along, right? Because if you think about like body rows, kettlebell cleans, and pull-ups,
that's it,
are all you really do for your back. You'll do some band pull-aparts to warm up.
Yeah, that's it.
And you've built an ass load of muscle in your back.
I know. Yeah,
right?
It's weird. Yeah.
Your butt.
I didn't expect that.
Yeah, right. Because if you're pulling from a bunch of angles, all the muscles in the upper back get hit.
For example, like, and it's emotion, right? That engages all of those muscles. And especially as you want to make them harder, for example, the body rows, well, you get lower to the ground, right? You might start with your feet away from the wall as you're doing the rows. And then as you get harder and harder, you put your feet right up to the wall. So you're close to the ground. But inherently you just hit all those muscles rather than, say, being in a machine at the gym. Yeah.
And you do, it's not unusual for somebody to go, okay, well, I'll do like a pull down, and then I'll do a cable row, and then I'll do a hammer row, and then I'll do a dumbbell row.
Yeah, it's really time intensive, and where this is more efficient and effective. So number one, you're saying consider those 5 movement patterns or exercises versus the traditional. Yeah,
like basically training like an athlete instead of a bodybuilder. Like nothing against bodybuilding, but it's not the most effective way for you to improve your athletic performance, right? And if we think about the sports we're talking about,
right,
we want to be better at those sports versus, getting all big and jacked.
Yeah.
Right? And the fact is that if you get stronger, better conditioned, and leaner, you're going to look better anyway. Right. And you're touching on some of the next points, that how you would break it up. So there's the strength, and you said the conditioning. Yeah.
And then the skills of that sport that you're working on.
Yeah.
So talk talk more about that.
So the further out you are, like the slowest thing to develop is strength, right? So if we think for any summer sports, this is the off season. And, there's sort of two different approaches I would take depending on if somebody's a competitive mountain biker, then, and they've got a race season coming up, then how I would structure it is a little bit different than how I structure it, say, for you and I. We love mountain biking. We'll mountain bike a bunch. We go on really long rides. But it's about feeling good, being able to perform reasonably. But it's not about,
Not race time.
Yeah, so anybody, we're talking to the non-competitive people, right? They want to be good at it. When you go do it, you want it to be fun and not kill you.
And you want to be able to, go have lunch and maybe go do something else after.
Yeah.
Like we were doing in Quebec.
Yeah.
2 different sports a day. It was awesome.
Yeah. Mountain bike in the morning and climb in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So
I just will add that when we were winter camping with the kids, they're like, after our 2-hour hike, they're like, can we just chill for the rest of the day? I'm like, really?
We never played so much Uno and taught the kids how to play poker.
Yeah.
And we took all their candy.
That's right.
Yeah. Gambling for candy. But that's the thing. Like, so how I would structure things for like a competitive athlete who has unlimited time.
Right.
Or has structured their life so they've got 10 or 15 hours a week is going to be different than how I structure for the rest of us, right? Because if people have heard the 80-20 rule, right? The idea that 80% of your progress comes from 20% of the things you do, which is sort of a bastardization from economics, blah, blah, blah. But, called the Pareto principle. But the concept behind it is that trying to figure out what is the 20%, right? What are the things that give you the most bang for your buck? So that you don't have to, if you don't have 10 or 15 hours a week to train, well, how can you get the most out of the time you can put into it, right? Because if you think about, say, a half an hour 5 times a week, right? So that's 2.5 hours a week. Well, now all of a sudden, instead of 10 hours, 2.5 hours is much more approachable, especially if you do it at home like we do, right? Because you're not having to spend a bunch of time going to the gym or going wherever.
Yeah.
And so it's getting things that hit a lot of notes at the same time, right? And that's things that we've talked about before, like keeping your work to rest ratio fairly even. So we'll do, like the workout we did today, we did 30 sets in 30 minutes because we did a set every minute. And our rest is whatever's left over. Depending on the exercise, like pull-ups, we were doing sets of 1 or 2 because it's like a heavier exercise. Then you get much more rest because it's a heavier, higher intensity exercise. But as you get stronger at it, then it might be 3 reps a minute and then 5 reps a minute, or might even get up to 10 reps a minute, right? It's the same thing you run into, like, say, something like kettlebell swings. We do right now 10 reps a minute, but then today's workout, we upped it to 11 reps.
Right, but when you say keeping your work to rest ratio even, you want for the amount of time that you're working in that minute, you'd like to see the remainder in that minute to be fairly the same, equivalent, same amount of time.
So that will give you not the best approach for building maximal strength. And that's why today's workout was kind of a mix.
Right.
Right?
Yes, it was.
Because the pull-ups, because it's something that we're really trying to get stronger at, then we were just doing sets of 2 or sets of 1. And then the kettlebell swings, 11 kettlebell swings take about, 15 to 20 seconds. So we got a little bit more rest. And then the bear crawls we did took about 30 seconds per set. So then you got 30 seconds rest, right? And so depending on what you're doing, one of the ways that you can structure your workouts is set a timer for 30 intervals or 20, whatever time frame you want. But it's going 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. So it's not doing an X number of reps, right? Your whole thing. The trick is you have to figure out, because different exercises are different reps for 30 seconds. Like kettlebell swings take about 20 reps is about 30 seconds. Whereas goblet squats is 10 to 12 reps. So if you're getting enough rough idea there. But if you really wanted to do it from a conditioning standpoint, then one of the simplest things you can do is dial back your weight a little bit and just do reps for 30 seconds, right? And then 30 seconds rest, and you repeat that, right? And a simple workout, like if you took your 5 movement patterns, and we wanted to do a 30-minute workout, well, that means 6 sets of push, 6 sets of pull, 6 sets of squat, 6 sets of hinge, 6 sets of carries, like 6 minutes of each exercise, right? Because you got 5 exercises times 6, that's 30 minutes. Now, I would alternate the upper and lower because if you did the way that I said it, did your push-pull,
right?
Your squat, hinge, and carries all in a row, you're just going to be completely gassed by the end. So if you spread them out a little bit, and it can be something super simple like 6 sets of push-ups, right? And how many you do will depend on what your fitness level is. Some people can do 30 seconds of push-ups right in a row. Other people can only do 3 or 4 push-ups, right? So whatever it is you can do, each round do half of that.
Okay.
Right? Sort of a simple way so that you'll accumulate fatigue, but the first set's not going to kill you, right? Then do your squat, then do your pull, then do your hinge, and then do your carry.
Yeah.
Right? And it can be such a simple thing, right? So we do push-ups, goblet squats, and if you're not sure what these are, just look up goblet squat. God bless Google. Then a body row or a dumbbell row or a pull-up, any kind of pulling motion. Then a hip hinge. So we're big fans of kettlebell swings, but you could also do like a Romanian deadlift. It's the exact same motion, just with no swinging part of it. And then finish off with suitcase carry. So you just have a weight in one hand. And with those, just make sure that you do an equal amount for each side, right? So that could be 30 seconds, left side, 30 seconds rest, 30 seconds right side. So you're ending up with 3 sets per side. Or you could do farmer's carry, which is a weight in each hand. And if you don't have a lot of space, one of the things that we love, we've got like a step right by the front door. 2 steps.
Yeah, that's really interesting when you've got kettlebells in each hand or whatever you're carrying. I found it really highlighted imbalances I had.
Yeah,
it was kind of wobbly. I'm like, wow, I need to work on this some more. So, there you go. When you try something new, even when you are fit and strong, you're not always going to be used to trying new things. Like you're going to see weaknesses.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll see progress because of, and it's fairly quick progress because of neurological adaptation, right? You're strong enough to do it, but you're just not quite coordinated yet. But you do it, relatively frequently. And you'll see big improvements because your body just learns how to do it, like coordinate everything together. And if it gets everything firing in the right pattern, the right order, all of a sudden you're more stable. So it seems like you've made this really big progress, even though your muscle fibers haven't really changed. It's that your brain figured out how to, the software improved. And that's sort of one of those things where you'll find that anytime you do a new program or new movements, you see very quick progress in them. And a big chunk of that is just neurological adaptation, right? Something was weird and awkward.
Yeah.
And then the next time you do it, it's a little bit less. Like you just started doing double kettlebell work.
Yeah.
Like in the last month. And it probably feels way less awkward now than it did 3 weeks ago.
I picked it up pretty quickly. Yeah. And Turkish get-ups, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're fairly complex movements.
I also thought it was neat when you were saying, anything explosive when as you're doing like say swings, right?
Yeah.
That works on your strength. But the more explosive it is, the more it's almost like little energy storage packs you're adding to your system. Like you're just adding more capacity that your body can do.
Yeah, because anytime you do explosive work with not super short rest periods, but a shorter rest period like we do if you're going every minute on the minute. And this goes whether it's kettlebell swings, kettlebell clean and jerk, things that aren't just like a slow grind, but they're like explosive ballistics. You'll run into the thing where they're very effective for developing mitochondrial growth or new mitochondria in the muscle cells. And the mitochondria are the little power plants that convert energy, like food, into energy, right? And so the more of those you have, the more energy you can create aerobically. And that means without getting out of breath, right? Where you're, I'm oversimplifying, but you don't get super out of breath and you don't burn, right? The higher your mitochondrial density is.
Yeah, so a great example is when I did the 10,000 kettlebell swing challenge last April for a whole month. So to break it down real quick, I did 500 kettlebell swings a session, and a session was 30 minutes, and I did that 5 days a week. So the very first one, I was like, wow, I do how many more of these? By the end of that week, massive gains. Within just a few days. That was pretty interesting.
Like how quickly.
And would you say it's a combination of the neurological? Do you think it was more the strength?
So
the mitochondrial.
The mitochondria take a little longer.
Would it? Okay.
Right. They'd be you'd start seeing them, the effect of them after the month.
Okay.
But that adaptation you saw in the first week is going to be two different things. Number one is improvements in neurological efficiency, right? You're practicing.
Yeah.
You get really good at doing swings when you do 500 a day.
Yeah.
And then the other is energy production requires different enzymes in the body, right? So if you haven't done any really metabolically or aerobically demanding work for a while, right? Because this was basically after our winter of like fairly heavy training. Then by doing something like the swing challenge, your body's got to ramp up production of those enzymes to create energy, like to, process. And so then you adapt fairly quickly, right? But there's a reason why it's just 20 workouts. Is beyond that, you don't really get much more, right? Like if you did it like for 6 weeks, it's not like you were going to keep seeing like any kind of linear
massive
improvement,
gains, yeah.
Right? It just kind of tapers off.
Right.
So then by doing a different program, like we did, then now you start realizing the gains you got from it.
Right.
But what you got from it doesn't disappear.
Yeah. So before you do a program, it's always worthwhile doing something at the beginning of that program to benchmark where you are from day one to the end of the month. Would you agree? Or would you do it further than that?
Sometimes. Like, it depends what it is we're testing.
Okay.
Right? Sometimes just the program itself is its own benchmark.
That's true, because there's built into it an increase, like there's progression.
Yeah.
Whether it be an increase in reps or load or diminishing the time to do the work.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to see progress. And you should note that.
Yeah. Because say something like we're doing now, where 2 of our workouts each week are AMRAPs, right? But not sort of the CrossFit-y, just go balls out and die. But
so what is AMRAP?
As many rounds as possible, or as many reps as possible, or whatever, you know, they want to make use of. But we just set a timer for 30 minutes, and as many rounds of, and we vary sort of the rep structure, but what we did yesterday was a ladder. So 1, 2, 3. So you do 1 kettlebell clean and press, and then you put the weight down, and then shake it out, and then clean it up, and then 1 kettlebell front squat, like double 2 kettlebells. And then the next round is 2s. And then the next round is 3s. And you just sort of pace yourself, trying to get as much done in 30 minutes as possible. And actually, yesterday we were in a rush, so we only did 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But you run into the thing where then the next time you do it, the week later, try to at least get 1 more rep, you know, or 1 more round. And, you know, over 4 weeks, you could see yourself go up like 12 reps. Well, that's, in a sense, its own benchmark, right? Like its own test.
Right.
You know, if you can do more for the same effort.
And quality is good.
Yeah. Then you have to be fitter. Right. So that sometimes, you know, it's useful to do some sort of fitness test. And then after, you know, you've done your, you know, 4 or 6 weeks, then test again.
Here's the thing though, right? So say you're focusing on a program that can get you into better climbing strength. And of course, the further away you are from your season, the more general it's going to be. But, you know, at the beginning you can, you know, maybe do some hangs. You can do, you know, hangs from your fingerboard. You can do different things. And then there could be pull-ups, how many of those you can do. But I'd say about 3 months later, you'd want to be checking in on that.
Yeah.
Right?
You know.
Maybe a couple months to see where you're at as a test. Yeah.
Yeah, and because in training, I'm a big proponent of not maxing out your training.
That's interesting. It wasn't until I met you. Because I think, you know, as a newbie going into the gym, that's all you hear people doing. Everybody's gunning for
a PR.
That's right.
The problem is, do you want your PRs in the gym, or do you want your PRs on the platform? You know, or like, you know, when you're actually out doing something that matters to you. You know, whether it's, you know, on a route when you're climbing, you know, even if you're not competitive, like, you know, you went to the trouble of doing like a big road trip mountain biking, but you left all of your best performances in the gym. To me, it seems pointless. Yeah,
because you were saying, and when you look at athletes training for a competition, they gradually work themselves up, and then before the competition, they deload. Because when you deload means you pull back to what percentage, more or less, from your regular workouts.
So you cut back 25 to 50%.
Right. And then your body recovers, and then you see massive gains, so that it just times it perfectly that when you're going to do the competition, you're in the best form.
Yeah. Like if you think of it like, and generally like a deload would be like the week before an event.
Okay.
And so this is the thing I tell anybody, like the week before an event, all you can do is make yourself tired. You can't build any more fitness, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're smart, say if it's cycling, and maybe it's a big charity ride or a Grand Fondo or and basically a mountain bike enduro, something where it's going to be really challenging for you. Mm-hmm. Well, if you just basically the week leading up to it, it's just easy rides, right? You cut you cut down the number of rides you do, you make them shorter and easier. Maybe you just go out on the road or ride a rail trail. You're still getting in the aerobic zone, but you're not doing any super hard efforts. You'll run into the thing where the fatigue that you build leading up, 2 weeks before, well, by easing off, then you run into the thing where that fatigue goes away, so then you can sort of see your fitness, right? It didn't make you any fitter. It just made you less tired. And that way then you can actually express your fitness when it matters, right? Because fitness is always one of those things where on any given day, right? Like if we just trained 2 days in a row. So if we try to do some big fitness test tomorrow,
it'd be a mistake. Yeah.
We probably wouldn't see like great performance, but if we did it on Tuesday,
yeah, it'd
be a little better. Maybe Wednesday. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, even within a normal context, right? Where it's not specifically an event, but you're going to do some sort of fitness test, something to benchmark yourself. Then having a few light days before it just mean that you'll be fresh enough to actually do it. Mm-hmm. And that's always that kind of thing of managing fatigue. And that's where having technology like Garmin watches, the Whoop band, the Oura Ring, there's a number of technologies out there that help monitor your state of readiness.
Yeah. And so basically we're talking about recovery, right? And again, that was another term that I was never familiar with. And, from just the idea of rest to not working out that day or dialing it back or even using, your massage, your Tim Tam that I have,
or the magic legs.
The legs, I don't know what they're called, but it's like a bag I put my legs into, and it helps with blood flow and recovery of the muscles.
Yeah, they're basically air bladders. Like there's one around your feet and ankles, one around your calves, and one around your thighs.
Yeah,
and it sequentially squeezes. Basically, kind of like your legs are the toothpaste tube. It starts at the ankle and works its way up, and it's squeezing the blood, back up towards, with the idea behind it is that it's also any of the waste products from workouts,
right?
It's squeezing all of that up towards your
because when I have my massage therapy and they use cups, so they use the cupping where they basically grabs all your skin and it brings blood flow to that area of your skin.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, the more bruising that you see means the more constriction that there is of blood just sitting there. So there's an area of that part of your body that there isn't a lot of blood flow going in and out. So that's why you see that. So I didn't realize blood flow, getting all that helps recover the muscles. And no, that's interesting.
Well, and that's where one of the most useful things for recovery is light movement. Go for you'll recover better if you, rather than do nothing on a rest day,
right?
You go for a walk, you do some original strength, right? On all fours, rocking back and forth like babies do, some crawling, nothing hard, but it's movement, right? You create a peripheral heart action, right? Because the heart moves, blood around the body. Well, every time you contract and relax a muscle, it moves fluid as well. So you'll get better recovery of getting the waste products out of the muscles, moving lightly on your rest days, than you will doing nothing. So it's not that you have to do any big, go for a 2-hour walk or anything, basically, but just some simple movement, maybe a little bit of yoga, like stuff you'd think is, oh, this isn't a workout. Right. But it's still movement.
Yeah. Yoga's really important. I used to do it in the past. And then when you and I started working out, I kind of gave it up because it wasn't helping with me with what I needed then. But when you work out a lot and you've got tight muscles or even sitting at the desk all day working from home, right? It's really important to get things moving more functionally. The other thing that I thought was interesting this year was how I had golfer's elbow pretty bad in my left arm. And I think it was from all the body rows that we were doing in particular. And then I was trying to do
and you were
the
working
pull-ups.
on pull-ups.
Right. But any grip thing of holding and squeezing, it would hurt my elbow. And I have to admit, though, I realized it today, like it's no longer there. And it was really, really bad. It was just, that would have been 6 months ago to maybe 3 months ago. And all of a sudden it's gone. And I'm impressed because I'm stronger now and I am doing these pull-ups. And I never stopped doing the pull-ups. I think.
You just changed the volume. It's
the volume. So volume's really interesting in working around injuries, dialing it back. But I did the original strength, which was all about that.
Right? You mean easy strength.
Right, easy strength.
See, this is where I wish people would start coming up with easier to distinguish names.
Yeah,
right.
That's the second time I've said that.
Yeah.
But it's by Coach Dan John and Pavel. Sorry, not Pavlovsuk.
Pavel Tatsulin, the the Russian.
And what it is really interesting is where you focus on those 5 functional movements and you do no more than 10 reps of each exercise in a day. It takes like 10 minutes to do, maybe 10, 12 minutes. Your warm-up's longer than that. And the movements that you're doing or the load is easy. It's not hard. And most times when you do 10 of each, it's not in one shot. You want to do it in over 2 or 3 sets.
Yep. Okay? So 2 sets of 5, 3 sets of 3.
Yeah. And it's a 5. How long is the program? 8 weeks? Or is it 5?
8 weeks.
Yeah. I did it. It probably took me longer because some weeks I just, what's harder is mentally thinking it's working and doing it every week, taking it seriously. Right. I think I did it over 8 weeks in the end, or 11 or 12 weeks because I skipped some weeks. I wanted to do it over. But the fitness gains I got from it, the strength gains I got from it were phenomenal. From squatting now with 65 pounds, no problem. My pull-ups were the key things that I noticed from doing what felt like nothing.
And now as far as your overhead presses go, you've gone up a full kettlebell size.
Yeah. And I can do with 2 double 36-pound kettlebells, so 70 pounds over me. So that was pretty phenomenal, really. And as I mentioned, I had golfer's elbow before that. Yeah. And yet, by dialing it back, but doing it 5 days a week, that's it.
It's a little bit often.
We were saying that's probably a great program to do in the summer when you don't want to spend time indoors working out. You just want to be having fun out, but getting gains, right? Whereas the ones that are more time intensive, do it over the winter, because if you're not a winter person anyways, what else are you going to do? Yeah. Do it indoors, right? And makes you feel good. And what I love about these programs is that, they're not like forever and you get bored of them, because a lot of people, I think that's what before I met you, I would have been doing 10 sets of 8, whatever, forever. Yeah. And you don't realize you're supposed to progress, or when do I increase my weights or whatever. And you just get bored of it. Mm-hmm. Whereas when you know that the program might be 4 or 5 weeks with progression built into it, it's keeping you mentally challenged as well. Yeah. And as long as, and this is what I love about Winston's programs, is that they're efficient, because I'm not one to want to work out all the time, but when you know your workout's going to be a half hour, sometimes it might be 40 minutes as you build more time into it. That's fine. But, it's effective.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of the things that I like, especially when you've got the timer going.
Yeah, I like the every minute on the minute.
It's
good.
Well, because even yesterday's, right? Of like, just get as many rounds in as you could.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's game.
Yeah. And then it's just like, okay, we got more than we had the week before. Then, next week we'll...
Pretty significant amount, too.
Yeah.
I think like 6 more rounds. That was pretty...
Well, that was when you did that was death by carries.
Oh, well, that's hard to tell because not every carry
is the same.
Basically, you do a bunch of carries.
Yeah. So, yeah, like
different weights.
Because we have 2 days a week we do kettlebell clean and press and front squats. 2 days a week with pull-ups, swings, and bear crawls. And then 1 day a week is just various loaded carries.
Yeah.
And every time you've done a type of carry, then you do a set of push-ups. And that's just
5 push-ups, I think.
Yeah, I do 10, but same idea.
Sure.
But you never stop moving for half an hour on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, they're efficient. I mean, that's what I like about them all. I'm like, oh, that's easy. I can do that. You put on some good punk rock music, whatever. Yeah. Whatever you're feeling. And then meanwhile, you're thinking about what's the next program? What are we going to do next? And, it's pretty cool. So let's talk a little bit about how we look at where workouts are going to be. We're talking about demands for the sport, right? So for example, one of my goals this year, because I've never done it before, is doing my lead certification indoors. Yeah,
it's funny. You got training for leading outdoors before you did it indoors.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one kind of got fucked up a little bit just because here in Ontario, the climbing gyms are still closed.
They're opening up tomorrow.
Yeah. But I mean, there's not a lot you could do in January when they closed the gyms for the whole month.
No. And I wish I had been using my fingerboard as you bought me for Christmas more. I could have tested that. But anyway.
That I put in your program?
Yeah, I know. He's doing air quotes right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's part of I'm supposed to do 10-second hangs for 10 minutes, like over 10 times.
3 times a week.
Yeah.
Nothing fancy. But it'll work.
Yeah. So far, my daughter's been using.
If you actually do it.
I know, right? It's scheduling it in. I think
it's in your program. I wrote it down.
I know. It's just demands.
Yeah.
Right. It's been busy.
Do it the minute you get out of bed.
I should.
It's 10 minutes.
Yeah. I got to work on my rituals.
Yeah.
In the morning. My morning, the summer is awesome because I used to always go out in my shorts and sports bra and take my coffee and just walk down the street and listen to my news. And I don't know, I just liked it. And take a dog, whatever. And I guess it's just the cold, right? In terms of the walking bit. Yeah,
well, that's where what I've got you doing is indoors.
I know, excuses.
Yep.
See, this is what this is what goes on behind the scenes.
Yes.
It's not easy, but hey, I'm getting results. And so, when you start to...
This is how good my programs are. Even if you half-ass them, you get results.
I do. Well, the thing too is that, and I don't note things down. This is where you really should, right? Is once it's like, you realize that you just broke your record, like of putting, pressing that much weight over your head, 70 pounds. You couldn't even do that in the gym.
With a barbell.
Right.
And now she's doing it with 2 kettlebells, which is harder.
Yeah. Which makes me want to go back to the gym to see what I can do. That'd be fun.
But I wonder if it'd be like me and you're like, oh, barbell overhead presses hurt my wrists.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's one of the things that, and I think this is one of the reasons why we're such big fans of the kettlebells, is we're getting older. Not old, but older. And I find like a lot of the barbell exercises hurt my joints.
You're not the only one to say that.
Who's
older.
Yeah. Whereas like kettlebell presses, I can do them all day long.
But the swinging motion, I mean, is so good for you.
Yeah.
Because it's just bringing lubrication to everything versus... a very tight position to be in both your I guess your hands and your elbows, right? When you're with the barbell doing a press with that much weight.
Or like, swings instead of deadlifts. And I find, push-ups and ring push-ups instead of bench press. All of these things, like my shoulders don't hurt, my elbows don't hurt. If you do too many pull-ups and too many body rows, you can get a little bit of what's known as MAPS, which is middle-age pull-up syndrome, which is like elbow tendonitis. So watch that one.
Yeah.
It's where work your volume up slowly. But that's one of the biggest reasons, aside from, obviously we see good fitness benefits from it. One of the other things I like is that I don't hurt, right?
Yeah.
Like my joints don't hurt.
Yeah. Going lighter, more volume, and then working these movement patterns that are more natural, which is really just good for you.
Yeah.
Because you do get creaky and stuck. Your muscles get stuck when you don't move them around. You don't use it, you lose it, right?
Yeah.
Actually, that should be one of my goals, is to be able to go on a monkey bars with my kids and swing, from bar to bar.
Yeah.
Because I know in the past that was really hard on my your arm sockets. Like I remember the pull on that was like,
when you can't even do a single pull up.
I wonder what it'd be now. Be very controlled, I think, because of all the strength I have.
Yeah. Like you're even strong enough to keep the arms bent a little bit.
So the other day, so I bought, what are those?
Gravity boots.
Gravity boots. So I can hang upside down on my on my chin up, my pull-up bar, and we put my daughter there, and we call that timeout now. Anyways, I got into it, no problem. Just kind of climbed my feet up the wall a little bit, but it just goes to show what a pull-up bar and body rows really can do for you, upper body.
Yeah.
And and women tend to be weaker than guys, right? And
for me to go, so people in general, because they don't work against body weight, like pull-ups are hard for everybody. But then women don't tend to do a lot of upper body stuff, a lot of them.
Yeah.
Right? So, the first thing is just to be able to hang from a bar. A lot of people don't even have the grip strength to hang for 30 seconds from the bar.
Right.
So even if you can't do any pull-ups, start, even if it's just hanging from the bar for 10 seconds, rest 50. So 10 seconds a minute for 10 minutes. Gradually work that up to doing 30 seconds a minute for 10 minutes. Even without pulling yourself up at all.
Yeah, just hang there.
Hang, but with active shoulders, squeezing your shoulder blades down.
Yeah, don't let your arms come out of your sockets. Like, don't just
bleh.
Yeah.
And you'll find that you get stronger even though you haven't done a single pull-up. Mm-hmm. So there's these things that progressions people can do.
Yeah, and at the beginning of pull-ups, you had me doing negative.
Yep.
What is it called? Negative gravity pull-ups?
No, just negatives.
Negatives. So it's basically you
get boosted to the top and then lower slow.
Yeah. Yeah, because you were saying that moving up to the top, it's the top that's the hardest. But anyways, you start from the top, you lower slow, you start to build strength.
Yeah.
And then the thing that we started me off with was a resistance bands. Can't say enough of those.
Yep.
They're awesome. They're so versatile.
Put it around the bar, stretch it down, put a foot in it, and it takes a bunch of weight off you. So,
yeah, kind of like what you see at the gym. If you ever see people doing tricep or what are they called? Dips. Right.
Yeah, dips
you're on
or
that
pull-ups on
you're on that little platform. And,
the assisted machine.
Right. So it's the same thing, or you do pull-ups. So I started off with probably the heaviest band. No, not the heaviest.
Second heaviest.
So what is that? How much weight are we taking off?
Like that was taking about 80 pounds off you.
Right. So now I'm 30 pounds?
Off? It's a 40-pound band. So
yeah. So I gained 178 now. I shouldn't say that, but it's true. I was 160 at 178. I got to stop eating carbs. I need to work on that.
Yeah.
Because my goal is in the 150s this year.
And you're going backwards.
I know. Yeah. Hey, it's the truth.
Yep.
Anyway, so 30 pounds, so 178, right? So 140 is what I'm doing. So that's kind of strong.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember what I was doing in the gym. I was heavier.
Yeah.
I think I took 100 pounds off.
Yeah.
So let's say I was probably 190. So, wow, that's a difference.
Yeah.
So I was doing 90 pounds, right?
Yep.
And now I'm doing 148.
Something in that ballpark.
That's a significant.
Yeah.
Wow.
You keep training, you get stronger.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
And here's a little thing for everybody. Get a damn notebook and write shit down and keep track of it so that you actually, you're not surprised. Like, not everybody's going to have a training partner like me that has the memory of an elephant who goes, do you remember 2 years ago when you couldn't do this? You did 65 pounds and now
it makes the world a difference. Because I walk away to me, because you do this stuff and you wonder, is this really doing anything? And then you're like pointing these things out. And you're like, oh yeah. Or, it's not until I do something physical that I've never done before that I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right. But, when it's pure numbers, it's rewarding.
Numbers don't lie.
No.
Basically gravity is gravity.
Yeah. If
you don't overcome gravity, then you didn't overcome gravity, right? Like, it's pretty straightforward. So and if people think of it from the standpoint, like I said, strength is the slowest thing to develop. So working on your strength early and often, right? So, and that could be to something as simple as like a full body 3 times a week. And then this time of year, if you are able to, it's like 2 or 3 sessions of your sport, right? So if you're a mountain biker, obviously if you can get out on a fat bike, like if you have one, that's great. You can get out riding in the winter. If not, like an indoor bike trainer, or a Peloton. But what we want to do this time of year is just steady, right? You're not attacking hills, you're not going...
You're just maintaining fitness?
No, you're building it, but you're building aerobic fitness.
Okay.
Right? You need to build your aerobic base.
Okay.
Right? So you shouldn't be huffing and puffing. You shouldn't be burning. It's just building that capacity over time. So how many minutes to start and building up? How much a week? Well, so again, there's ideal versus real life. People will see some progress if they do 30 minutes 3 times a week. Combined with their weight training. And then each week you need to add to that because you adapt? Well, so the way you can go is the same duration. Higher intensity? No, basically focus on the heart rate. And what you'll run into is you'll just go faster at that same heart rate over time. Got it. Yeah. Right? Your body will just adapt. Eventually you're going to have to start adding some more volume if you want to, if you want to be able to ride hard for 3 hours. At some point, you're going to have to do more than a half. But you're also going to increase your gears too. Yeah. Right. So basically, heart rate monitors are an awesome tool. Yeah. Because that's how when I first met you back at the bike shop, everything was based on heart rate. Heart rate. Well, we had power meters too. Right. That was right. We did that once a month, I believe, for the fitness test. But a lot of the people, the really nerdy ones, were training with power meters all the time. So you were able to correlate heart rate to power in your workouts. Yeah. But for most people, it's like, if you get like 3 30-minute sessions a week, where you're getting your heart rate, and this is just sort of generic numbers, right? Because everybody's heart rate varies a little bit. But if you get sort of in the 115 to 140 range, and I realize that's like a 25 beat range. Yeah. You're going to be aerobic, and you're going to see some adaptations. So because figuring out what your beats per minute or what's appropriate for your age is tough,
unless you get it done professionally, right?
Well, but the thing you'll run into is
you can use your breath.
Yeah, the talk test. Like you should be able to speak in full sentences without gasping.
And that's the range you want people to be in?
Yeah, for aerobic building.
Okay. And so if people want to figure out, because I have a high heart rate, clearly, where do I get that done?
What do you mean?
To figure out what my true maximal
heart
in
rate. A sense, it doesn't matter anyway, right? Like what your true max is, because
again, just follow your breath.
Yeah, and so you'll see yours is a like about 10 or 15 beats higher than mine for the same relative effort level.
Well, there you go, because we always look at how my beats are higher than yours, and I always feel like a bit crappy that I'm like, oh, I'm not as fit.
But you just sit, like when you're exercising, you just run at a higher heart rate than I do.
It's true.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm faster than you.
Yeah.
But, it has nothing to do with the heart rate, right? It's basically that combination of just out on the road where technical skill doesn't come into it at all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little stronger. I can push a bigger gear than you. Mm-hmm. But the difference isn't huge. Mm-hmm. But when we're on the trail, a big chunk of it is just the fact that I've been mountain biking for over 30 years.
Yeah, it's the technical bit.
Yeah, like I'm just more efficient.
Yeah.
Right? And so if I can get through a section with less, quicker, I didn't put on my brakes as much, and then I'm fresher into the next hill, mm-hmm. it just adds up over the course of a ride, But, you run into the thing where, again, these are sort of recommendations for real people with real jobs, families, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But if you can get like 3 30-minute sessions in a week, that's perfect for like a 6-week block. 3 strength training, 3, bike, snowshoe, cross-country ski, And if you can get out, because you, like say on the weekend, you can get out for one longer one. Mm-hmm. It's a hike, it's a whatever. That's great. Mm-hmm. Like make one of your 3 a longer one on the weekend.
Yeah.
Like we went out yesterday for a hike for an hour.
Yeah.
And
with our snowshoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is awkward. It's always slower, right? So
yeah, but it's physically demanding.
It is, yeah.
Right? Up and down, you're in the snow.
Yeah. Really great for your knees, too, when you're in the snow and not on the path, by the way, because my knees have been bugging me lately. I don't know, with the snowshoes on the path. So when I go in the snow, it feels really good.
Yeah, because it's more cushioned.
Yeah.
Right? And then, you run into the thing where, let's say somebody who wants to be good at mountain biking, wants their mountain biking to improve, will then... having 2 sessions of aerobic riding and 1 session where you've got some sprints. So you've got like a 6-week block where it's pure aerobic with your strength training. Mm-hmm. Then, and you compare this like a big conditioning block, like a 4-week block. And this is where, say, having some kettlebells at home or something like that can be really effective, is 3 rides a week. Now you want to stretch those out a little bit more, like 45 minutes to an hour. Mm-hmm. 3 strength training workouts, but a little bit more, focus on getting your heart rate up. Because we've done kind of like a strength focus with very easy cardio. Now we're getting into some heavier conditioning. And that's what you and I have planned. Or that's what I have planned for you and I.
Yeah, what did you call it? You had a name for it. You just told me I was going to hate you.
Yeah.
Because you think it's the hardest thing you'll ever have given me?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, but it's only 2 weeks long. 2 weeks of 5 days a week of conditioning circuits.
But they're each 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I can deal with that.
Yeah. It's just, instead of like work for 20 minutes and 40 seconds off, it's work for like 3 minutes and have 1 minute off. Right? So, like there's a whole lot of huffing and puffing in store
and going
for us.
into a bit of a zone.
Yeah.
Put on some really hard gangster rap music, hip hop.
Whatever gets you through.
Really loud.
The thing that gets me through is if I have something programmed, right?
Crossing it off your list.
Every check mark. It's like one more, almost done.
Yeah.
Done. Next thing. My notebook is just like hash marks.
I love
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next. And
I think it's funny how like whenever I work out, I'm listening to the music that I never listen to on my own time. It's like angry music. I like that.
Whereas that's what I like listen to on my own time.
Yeah. And then, it's like when we go backpacking, I never eat ramen noodles. It's only when I go backpacking I have ramen noodles and pepperettes, like the stuff I would never eat.
Yeah.
In real life. I don't know what it is. It's kind of weird.
Well, it's
kind of comforting.
Each of them sort of gets you in the zone.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. So the big key then is just gradually increasing your volume. But if you're limited by how much time you have to train, then it's gradually increasing the amount of work you're doing within a given workout, right? So if you've got 30 minutes, if you can't stretch that out to 35, 40, 45 over time, but, and we all have constraints, right? Then 2 different approaches you can take. And this is, again, where having something like a couple of kettlebells at home. Doing like a 10-minute workout in the morning, right? 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off for 10 minutes of kettlebell swings. And then you get your 30 minutes at night or, however you want to do it.
Right.
But these little movement snacks.
Yeah.
You've got your heart rate up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's going to be like a bunch of little benefits that come from that. Then another day could be 10 sets of 10 goblet squats. Right? Then the next day could be 10 sets of 10 push-ups in 10 minutes. You take and cycle through that like 6 days a week. Well, that's at an hour to your your working out week as far as training goes. But it's 10 minutes a day, right? If you literally could do it in your bedroom or in the rec room or wherever you've got some stuff set up, and put these movement snacks in, then all of a sudden it's like, well, it's fucking 10 minutes, right? You can fit 10 minutes in.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And doing that sort of thing makes a big difference as far as increasing that work capacity.
Yeah.
And work capacity is just a fancy way of saying like systemic endurance. It's the amount of work you can do and keep going. Right. And so by putting these little dribs and drabs in here and there, if somebody was to do some multiple movement stacks, because anybody that's still working from home,
oh my god,
right,
you totally need this because you're glued to the computer.
Yeah,
there's none of that water cooler talk or let's go for a coffee, let's get up, go to the bathroom, go have to walk, it's just from drinking all that coffee. Yeah. It's brutal. Like, I think, what, my colleague, she's also losing sensation in her hands. So for folks listening, I've been losing, I can't feel vibration in parts of my hand and my feet. And we thought it had something to do with maybe this 10,000 kettlebell swing challenge, because that's when it started to happen. It could have been, and Winston thinks it's my tight calves, or there's a bunch of things I'm working on. But one of them is probably just sitting all day. And so that's why these movement snacks, sitting all day at my computer, and these movement snacks are so important to get up and move. And it's one of the reasons why I love dog sitting, is because I have to get up and move. And because I've got really freaking tight traps and my back and my posture's shit. And
And
so again, doing these movement snacks, a couple times I was doing some swings. I'm like, oh, that's what I needed, right?
Yeah.
Just to unwind things and burn some energy or.
Well, because it gets all the postural muscles. Like,
Yeah.
that's why, like, the kettlebell swing and the goblet squat, right, are like two of the best things you can do for your posture, right? Because obviously, totally aside from any muscles they work, swings are a load up the hamstrings in a stretch position is the bottom position. And the top position is a standing plank, right? You're at attention. Everything's braced.
Yeah.
Right. And you're getting that, the shoulders are retracted and the glutes are firing. And, and then with the goblet squat, because you're front loading the weight, you're holding, a kettlebell or a heavy dumbbell in front of your chest. You're obviously working your quads and your glutes and, all the muscles used in squatting. But because it's front loaded, all of those postural muscles in your upper back are engaged to keep you from falling over on your face. And they're great for opening up your hips, right? Because when you squat deep, you've got to open up your hips to give yourself room to get down there.
Yeah.
Right? So they're
and it's the weight to pull you down. Yeah.
Yeah. Right? So they end up being a great form of mobility work. And, they force you into a good posture. Right? So
GreatLakesCuria.com, LiveWild promo code.
Yeah. But those two movements, can be the foundation because then you do a lot of them.
Yeah.
If your hamstrings, your ass, your lower back, and your quads have, strength and muscular endurance, well, that sure sounds like hiking and mountain biking to me. Right? And if you do a lot of sets with, shorter rest periods, then you're going to get your heart rate up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even doing the goblet squats. I remember you asking me, where do you feel the burn? I'm like, oh, up here in my chest.
Yeah.
It was like my cardio couldn't even handle it. I had no cardio.
At the time,
fitness, yeah. So, yeah, that was interesting. I think that was with 45 pounds. So,
yeah.
anyways.
So it's that whole thing of like building all of the foundation of your house, right? And then just sort of basically adding bricks to it. Right, I'm loving the analogies, but it's that kind of thing where you're getting stronger, right? We're improving your condition or work capacity or endurance, whichever word floats your boat, And I'm not going to I could get into the weeds as far as energy systems, and with somebody who is like training for racing, we would get into that kind of thing. But for the average person, just building up the capacity just to do more shit without getting tired. That's what we're aiming for.
And strength training inherently will dramatically improve your fitness to like do cardio type workouts, like riding a bike up a hill.
Yeah.
Right. You now have the power.
You can generate more force on the pedals.
Yeah. And that was a surprise to me. So if I had to pick one over the other, I'd pick strength training if I was to focus on making sure I got something done versus go running on a Peloton treadmill or something like that.
And the other thing comes in, though, as soon as you adjust your rest intervals.
There you go.
With the strength side of it, resistance training, you improve both.
Twofer, yeah.
Right? And that's why... if somebody's only doing minimalist training, right, 3 30-minute sessions a week, that's all they got to work with. Well, that's where I'm going to program them kind of EMOM type workouts or escalating density, which is here's an amount of time. Each workout, try to get more work done in that time, right? Because that is going to make you stronger, and build your fitness, your ability to do stuff and not get excessively tired.
Yeah.
And so that whole idea of all working together. And really, if you think about like backpacking, mountain biking, and climbing, they all benefit from you being lighter. So if the types of workouts you're doing, because they're work dense, inherently will burn a lot of calories, as long as the amount of food you're putting in your mouth is under control, you will progressively start to get leaner over time as well. And if you're getting leaner, generally you lose fat a little faster than you build muscle. So you'll run into the thing where, 6 months from now, you're stronger, but you're also lighter. So you'll be able to ride your bike up that hill easier. You'll be able to carry your backpack up that mountain easier, or you'll be able to scale that rock face easier because you're overcoming gravity and you're just not having to move as much weight up there. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's sort of always one of those things. It's like optimizing power to weight ratio. You want to be as strong and as fit as you can be at the lightest body weight you can that doesn't negatively affect your performance. And that's for peak performance, right? But for those of us who don't race anymore, drop 10 pounds and you'll ride up the hill easier. Yeah. Right? It's not,
Yeah, pretty much in all those things, rock climbing, mountain biking, and backpacking, weight's a big thing.
Yeah.
Whether it's in what you carry or your bike or your gear
or you. And you're the easiest one to lose weight off of. The cheapest anyway.
Yeah.
Lose 10, like you have to spend thousands of dollars, and it might not even be possible to lose 10 pounds off your bike or out of your backpack.
Right. But it makes a difference.
But 10 pounds out of you?
Yeah.
Well, that won't cost you anything. Right? Just eat less and move more.
Yeah.
Right? And strength train.
Yeah.
You're going to get lighter over time. We can get into, obviously get more protein and lots of water and blah, 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 eat your veggies. We've got all the guidelines for getting, leaner and stronger nutritionally. But it will actually be cheaper because you need less food,
So I think that about wraps it up as far as, some of the training philosophies and approaches that you can do over the winter for your summertime outdoor adventures. And some perspectives. I know that when I first started out, I was that philosophy of going to the gym, trying to break my best record. And when you're doing 8 sets of 10 or, whatever, that's it. So I think that we hope that we opened up the world of possibility and the way to look at it. And I think we're going to be doing up some episodes specific to training for mountain biking, one on training for rock climbing, another one for backpacking.
Yeah. And I think the big thing is just, and this is like the super general advice, but is a few times a week, lift heavy things. A few times a week, break a sweat. And a few times a week, stretch. Like do big mobility movements. So you stay loose and limber.
Mm-hmm. And move every day, walking.
And then, whether it's walking, bike ride, whatever, but just move often. Mm-hmm. And you'll be blown away how, especially if you're coming from an untrained state, what a difference it makes.
Oh yeah, even in your sleep, you'll notice that. But yeah,
like if you worked hard, you'll sleep better tonight. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that so many people have. Is they're tired all the time because they're not in shape. But they never sleep well.
Yeah.
Right? And so one of the simplest things is like, get training regularly. And what you'll find is you have more energy during the day and you sleep better at night. It's kind of magical, really. Mm-hmm. Like if we have a big training day, or it's, a big training block, week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, where it's really been heavy and consistent. It ain't a problem going to sleep at night, and you feel good. So, yeah. And so if anybody's got questions, you can go to livewildradio.com and submit. We've got the Contact Us section there. Or on Instagram, Live Wild Radio, Facebook, Live Wild Radio. And if anybody's got questions, reach out to us. We want to get a conversation going, right? Where find out what people are doing, what's working for them, what do they want to accomplish, and then if there's ways we can help out, because that's sort of what our big goal with this is by giving people like practical tools that they can actually put into practice and see changes, because I've said this before, but everything in your life is better if you're in better shape.
Listen to our longevity series.
Yeah.
Yeah. So subscribe, share, get us out there. It helps us out getting into
comment.
Yeah.
What are the other social things? Leave a 5-star review. On the I guess the Apple Podcasts or on the Spotify, or I don't know. Isn't it? But just as an aside, isn't it cool that you can go searching for a podcast like on any of these platforms, like particularly on Spotify. Our podcast pops up there, and then there's Joe Rogan. There's just something cool about we're just schlubs who record stuff in the living room. Yeah. Well, anyway, we will talk to you guys next time. So remember to work hard
and play dirty.